The day Pam Bondi walked into the Supreme Court, she knew her faith had painted a target on her back. What she didn't know was that Justice Abigail Spencer had prepared a public humiliation designed to break her spirit and destroy her case. As the chamber fell silent and all eyes turned to watch the showdown between these two legal titans, no one could have predicted how this battle of wills would end. When a justice of the highest court crosses the line from legal questioning into personal attack, what happens next will shock everyone, and could change American religious liberty forever. In the marble halls of the Supreme Court, former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi stood tall despite the weight pressing down on her shoulders. This wasn't just another case, it was personal. As lead counsel representing a small religious college threatened with losing its accreditation due to its faith-based policies, Bondi knew the stakes extended far beyond this single institution. The morning sunlight filtered through the high windows as Bondi organized her notes. At 63, she had faced countless legal battles, but none where her own faith and professional reputation had been so intertwined with the case at hand. Nervous about facing Justice Spencer? Asked Martin, her young associate. Bondi gave a slight smile. Justice Spencer has never made a secret of her distaste for me or my beliefs. But the law is the law, regardless of personal feelings. Justice Abigail Spencer had been appointed to the Supreme Court 3 years ago and had quickly developed a reputation for sharp questioning and even sharper opinions regarding the separation of church and state. The whispers around Washington legal circles suggested that Spencer viewed religious liberty cases with particular skepticism, especially when Bondi was involved. As the justices filed in, Bondi felt Justice Spencer's cold gaze settle on her. Their history stretched back years, to when Spencer was a federal judge in the 11th Circuit and had publicly criticized Bondi's handling of religious liberty cases during her tenure as Florida's Attorney General. Ms. Bondi, Justice Spencer began once arguments commenced, her voice carrying an unmistakable edge. You argue that Faith Covenant College should maintain accreditation despite policies that many would consider discriminatory. Aren't you simply asking this court to sanction prejudice under the guise of religious freedom? The question hung in the air, deliberately provocative. Several justices shifted uncomfortably. Your Honor, Bondi replied evenly. Faith Covenant College has maintained consistent faith-based standards for 50 years. These standards are deeply rooted in their religious tradition and are applied equally to all students and faculty who voluntarily choose to join their community. Justice Spencer leaned forward. Ms. Bondi, perhaps your own religious convictions are clouding your legal judgment. This wouldn't be the first time, would it? A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Chief Justice Reynolds frowned at the personal nature of the question, but didn't intervene. Bondi took a measured breath. With respect, Justice Spencer, my personal faith is not on trial today, nor is it relevant to the constitutional questions before this court. I would respectfully ask that we focus on the legal principles at stake. I'll determine what's relevant, Ms. Bondi, Spencer shot back. You've built much of your career advocating for what you call religious liberty. Some might call it state-sanctioned discrimination. I wonder if you can separate your personal beliefs from your legal arguments. The tension in the courtroom thickened. Justice Garcia, sensing the exchange veering into inappropriate territory, intervened with a question about precedent, temporarily shifting the focus away from Bondi's faith. As arguments continued, Justice Spencer persisted in her attempt to unsettle Bondi with increasingly personal comments. Ms. Bondi, you attend Grace Community Church in Tampa, correct? The same church that has publicly supported Faith Covenant's policies? Bondi's face remained composed, though her knuckles whitened around her pen. Your Honor, I fail to see how my personal place of worship is germane to the constitutional questions before us. I'm establishing potential bias, Counselor. Chief Justice Reynolds finally interceded. Justice Spencer, the counsel's personal religious affiliations are not relevant to these proceedings. Please confine your questions to the legal matters at hand. Spencer nodded curtly, but her expression remained hostile. During the lunch recess, Bondi retreated to a quiet corner of the Supreme Court building. Instead of reviewing her notes, she closed her eyes in silent prayer, seeking strength and clarity. Prayer won't help your case, Ms. Bondi, came Justice Spencer's voice, startling her. The justice had apparently been watching from the doorway. Bondi stood. Justice Spencer, I believe it would be inappropriate for us to discuss the case privately. I'm not here to discuss the case, Spencer said, stepping closer. I'm curious why someone with your intelligence clings to outdated beliefs that have been used throughout history to justify discrimination. Bondi met her gaze steadily. My faith teaches love and respect for all people, Your Honor. It also values truth and constitutional principles, including the First Amendment right to religious freedom. Convenient interpretations, Spencer replied coldly. Your brand of faith has caused tremendous harm. With respect, Your Honor, prejudging my beliefs without understanding them might itself be considered a form of bias, Bondi responded quietly. Something flickered across Spencer's face, surprise perhaps at Bondi's gentle rebuke, before she turned and walked away without another word. When arguments resumed, Bondi noticed a subtle shift in the courtroom dynamics. Several justices, including Justice Garcia and Justice Washington, began directing more substantive and respectful questions her way, as if countering Spencer's hostility. As the afternoon wore on, Bondi methodically built her case, citing precedent after precedent establishing that religious institutions had the constitutional right to operate according to their beliefs. Despite Justice Spencer's continued attempts to derail her arguments with personal jabs, Bondi remained focused on the legal principles. During her final rebuttal, Bondi addressed the core issue. This court has consistently held that the First Amendment protects religious organizations' ability to operate according to their faith traditions. Faith Covenant College doesn't seek special treatment. Merely the same religious liberty protections this court has upheld for over 2 centuries. As she gathered her materials at the conclusion of oral arguments, Bondi noticed Justice Washington, the court's most senior member, approaching. Ms. Bondi, he said quietly, I want to commend your professionalism today under difficult circumstances. Thank you, Your Honor, she replied, touched by the gesture. I've served on this court for 27 years, Washington continued. The strength of our system isn't just in our legal arguments but in how we conduct ourselves when those arguments become personal. You represented your client, and yourself, with dignity. 3 months later, the Supreme Court issued its ruling. By a 7-2 margin, the court sided with Faith Covenant College, affirming that religious educational institutions retain the right to operate according to their belief systems. Justice Washington wrote the majority opinion, with Justice Spencer writing a scathing dissent. What surprised court watchers was a separate concurring opinion from Justice Garcia, who specifically addressed the conduct during oral arguments. The integrity of our judicial process depends on treating all advocates with respect, regardless of their personal beliefs. When we allow personal bias to color our treatment of counsel, we undermine the very impartiality that defines our role. While not naming Justice Spencer directly, the message was clear. The evening after the decision was announced, Bondi received an unexpected visitor at her hotel. Justice Spencer stood awkwardly at her door. May I come in, Ms. Bondi? Surprised, Bondi invited her in. I won't take much of your time, Spencer said, declining a seat. I wanted to apologize for my conduct during arguments. My personal feelings interfered with my judicial duty to treat you with respect. Bondi nodded. I appreciate that, Your Honor. I still fundamentally disagree with your position, Spencer added quickly. I would expect nothing less, Bondi replied with a small smile. Our system is built on principled disagreement. But there's a difference between challenging arguments and challenging someone's worth because of their beliefs. Spencer studied her for a moment. How do you do it, Bondi? Maintain such composure when being attacked personally? My faith teaches me that my worth isn't determined by others' opinions of me, Bondi answered simply. And my legal training reminds me that justice is best served when we focus on principles rather than personalities. Justice Spencer nodded slowly. I'm not sure I can separate the two as clearly as you do, but perhaps I should try harder. She moved toward the door, then paused. I had you all wrong, Bondi. I mistook your faith for weakness. It seems to be your strength instead. After Spencer left, Bondi sat quietly, reflecting on the unexpected conversation. The victory in court mattered, of course. It would protect religious liberty for years to come. But in that moment, what felt most significant wasn't the legal triumph, but the small bridge of understanding that had formed between two women with fundamentally different worldviews. In her decades of legal work, Bondi had learned that true justice often happened not in dramatic courtroom victories, but in these quiet moments of human connection, when respect transcended disagreement and dignity prevailed over division. As Pam Bondi's story reminds us, Standing firm in your faith despite adversity takes extraordinary courage. Her dignity in the face of unfair treatment is an inspiration to all of us in our golden years. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories about faith, perseverance, and justice. Join our growing community of wisdom seekers who believe that our best years are still ahead of us.